Okay. It's okay if my hair is a little crazy for this, you know? For as long as I can remember, I've had this fascination, this obsession with genius, and especially artistic genius and masterpieces and stuff. So I thought I would combine my fascination with geniuses and my fascination with literature. So I bring to you today this video reading not all of, but some of Vincent van Gogh's favorite books. Because here's the thing, he was a great lover of literature. In fact, his love of literature goes back further than his love of painting. Van Gogh didn't actually decide to be an artist until 1880. But like I say, his love of books dated earlier. And we know a lot about his love of literature and his taste in books from reading his letters. For instance, this excerpt from his letter to his brother Theo. In reading books, as in looking at pictures, one must admire what is beautiful without doubts, without hesitation, with assurance. I am gradually rearranging all my books. I have read too much not to carry on systematically trying to get at least an idea about modern literature. I love the idea of Vincent van Gogh there, just like rearranging his books. He would have had an amazing booktube channel. So the first book that I read was actually a play, and that is Macbeth by William Shakespeare. Van Gogh was a big Shakespeare fan. So this, I almost lost my mind reading this. Just because there is a big kind of barrier to entry for Shakespeare that I had to get over. It takes a long time, but I've heard that the best way to read Shakespeare is just to read Shakespeare and keep doing it, even if you don't necessarily understand every single part. So this is one of Shakespeare's most famous tragedies. It's also very complex and emotionally intense, a lot like Vincent, I suppose. Thematically, it's about greed and it's about power and the lust for power and the hunger for power and the eventual downfall that you will succumb to if you spend your whole life obsessing over those things. By the way, I love this book. Like I bought this secondhand, whoever owned it before me must have had just really good vibes. Because when I hold this book, I feel something. So who is Macbeth? Macbeth is a Scottish general who has managed to lead his army to defeat invaders. And right at the beginning of the play, we've got these three witches. They're kind of my favorite characters, to be honest. Just because I have a soft spot for witches. That's a weird thing to say. And these witches, they kind of do this little chorus, which is, you know, a popular thing back in the day in plays, where they prophesize that Macbeth will eventually be made King of Scotland. So Macbeth hears this prophecy and he does what most people do when they hear something like this. They write to their wife, they write to their partner, their lover, their other half, their friends with benefits. I don't know, but in this case, he wrote to his wife and his wife was like, "Oh, interesting, King of Scotland, you say?" And it's actually her that becomes consumed with the thoughts of power and greed and like world domination. So I think this should really be called Lady Macbeth, honestly. And in this day and age, it would be. Because she basically pushes Macbeth to commit these unthinkable crimes. Behind every good man, there is Lady Macbeth. I would give this 3.5 stars, but if I like had more Shakespeare fluency, I'm sure I would rate it much higher, but 5 stars just for the vibes of holding this book. Next is a little bit of a weird. So, if you don't know, Van Gogh, he went through his religious era. So yeah, Van Gogh was certainly religious. His beliefs did change over time, but his father was a minister. So naturally he had a pretty Christian upbringing. So he was a big fan of the Imitation of Christ, and I actually used to be a big, I mean, not that I'm not a fan of it anymore, but... So yeah, I have actually read this a few times as a teenager. This is a Christian devotional book, and other than the Bible, it's the one that is like translated in the most different languages. And it was first composed in medieval Latin, so it's old, it's pretty old. It's a classic, I guess, but it's obviously not like considered a classic because it's very niche. So yeah, I mean, obviously it's a good book if it does what it says on the tin, as they say. If you want to imitate Christ, this is your go-to. And to be honest, just if you sort of want to have a better character. And it's sort of a book where you can open anywhere. Like, for instance, okay, I'm opening it right now. He will easily be content and in peace whose conscience is clean. I mean, yeah. But yeah, it's definitely not light and airy-fairy. It's very heavy. Like I say, I read this as a teenager because I had my religious phase. I wanted to be a nun. Like, I was religious as in, like, I walked to mass every morning during the summer, like 3 miles there, 3 miles back, rain or shine. And you know what? I was pretty happy. I think that was the happiest, most stable point in my life. To be fair, I was like 14, and I think maybe just the mental illness hadn't hit me yet. And I also, I mean, I still like the aesthetics of Catholicism, like the churches and the candles and stuff. Like, it's very dark academia. It's the original dark academia, if you will. Oh, there's a little prayer thing in here. I don't know who this is. Oh, it says, this is Saint Gabriel of Our Lady of Sorrows. He kind of looks like Timothy Chalamet a little bit when Timothy was younger. So maybe I was just too extreme. Like, maybe I was just too extreme and it just wasn't sustainable. Like, I plan to have another religious phase when I'm like 70, 80, that kind of, like, because, like, just in case. Just in case, like, hell is actually real. Might as well, like, I might as well spend the last 10 years of my life reading this. And, you know, in my wheelchair, going to mass every morning. So next, on the same vein, we have the Bible. Van Gogh was a big fan of the Bible. Again, I used to read the Bible a lot. But yeah, there it is now. And look, did I read the whole Bible in preparation for this video? No. I am not that devoted to my craft. And honestly, I've never read the whole Bible. Very few, here's a little secret, okay? Very few Catholics or Christians actually have, okay? But what I used to do is, like, if I had a problem in life, I would, like, say a wee prayer and I would open the Bible anywhere and let it guide me. So right now I'm, like, struggling, like, I don't know what to do with my life. I'm having a kind of a existential crisis at the ripe old age of 32, so let's give it a go. Those who choose another god multiply their sorrows. Their liberations of blood I will not pour out or take their names upon my lips. So I think it's telling me to, like, make my religious phase a little sooner than 80. Let's try again. Like that one. The word of the Lord is against you, land of the Philistines, and I will destroy you till no inhabitant is left. Like, I forgot how dark this is, like, really and truly. Don't worry, if you're like, if you hate religion, we're done with the religious text now. And we are moving on to Candide by Voltaire. And this is part of the Western canon, and I hated this book so very much. So it's a darkly satirical novella. It's very short, but it felt long. And it takes aim at human folly, pride, and excessive faith in reason's ability to plumb the deepest metaphysical truths. It remains as telling in this era of pandemics and wild conspiracy theories as when it first was published. Like, maybe if you can get through it. It was just so boring, so unfunny. Like, it's supposed to be funny. How do you laugh at this? It's sexist, it's lazy, it's chaotic, the prose is dry. No prose, it's not prose, I wouldn't even call it prose. The letters that form sentences are dry. It reads like a vulgar 10-year-old boy wrote it, you know what I mean? I just found myself super angry while I was reading it. Like, I suppose because boredom is my least favorite emotion. So if something makes me feel bored, I'm angry at the thing that is making me feel bored. And also just that this is considered a classic. And also, it's quite frankly lewd. And I don't like lewd. I'm not a prude by any stretch of the imagination, but lewdness is something I'm just not into. Also, Voltaire wrote this in 3 days, and it shows. It really gives, like, B-movie, not the B-movie, that would be amazing, but like B horror movie, action adventure, like maybe even C-movie vibes. So, Vincent, baby, I love you, but your taste on this one is not it for me. So, Van Gogh was a big fan of poetry, and one of his favorite poets was John Keats, and one of his favorites was the Eve of Saint Agnes, which is a narrative poem, so it's a bit longer. And I vibed with this. It was very unique, very imaginative, because it explores different kinds of wishes and dreams through a few different devices. It's also very enchanting and gothic. So in the Eve of Saint Agnes, we've got two young lovers. It's quite Romeo and Juliet-esque. They are Madeline and Porphyro. So they've got themselves in a bit of a Romeo and Juliet dilemma. They come from families whose hatred for each other is intense. But, you know, the young couple, they have the passion. They have their passion for each other, and that keeps them warm in these icy, cold, hatred-filled environments. It's one of the premises of the poems, this idea that love can be a refuge and warmth and respite from bad things, I guess. Yeah, just that love can create these moments of beauty and warmth in your harsh reality. So as an artist, I definitely see why Van Gogh vibes with this, like beautiful imagery, very colorful prose. I would honestly, yeah, 4 stars. Lastly, we have What the Moon Saw by Hans Christian Andersen. So this is a collection, it's sort of a collection of short stories, but not really. It's a collection of scenes or portraits. So it's told through the eyes of the moon. And the moon is like is talking to this like old lonely guy. And he's like, oh, you're lonely? I'm the moon. I see all these things. I get lonely sometimes, but when I'm looking at all these lovely scenes unfolding, and sometimes not necessarily lovely, I feel less alone. So let me tell you these tales. Some are very striking and others are forgettable. They're of varying lengths. Some are kind of depressing. Yeah, Andersen definitely seemed a bit fixated on death. In his autobiography, he described writing a picture book without pictures, and the belief is that this is what he was referring to, because he never really named what it was, but this is definitely could be described as a picture book without pictures. But the main thing that I got from it was that the moon is a pervert. The moon's a pervert. I think you'll see why I'm saying that when I read you this passage. I'm very fond of children, said the moon. Fine, nothing wrong with that. Especially the little ones, who are so amusing. Yeah, kids are amusing. So far, all good. When they are not thinking of me at all, I peep into the room between the curtain and the window frame. Getting into the creepy territory now. I like to watch them dressing and undressing. First the round, naked little shoulder comes creeping out of the frock, and then the arm slides out, or else you know what, I'm actually not going to continue, because it is so creepy. There's some kissing, he wants to kiss. Like, I didn't know that this was going to be Lolita, so just for that alone, I'm going to give this 1 star. I'm a big fan of the moon, and I don't want the moon to be a pervert. So that's it. We got through a whole video about Van Gogh without mentioning him chopping off his ear, so I think, well, we ruined it now.